there's an opportunity to develop talent, and as a department we have a program, we have done that, and I will talk about that a bit later. We have to invest in our educational system, I think everybody knows that, and support small businesses. I've got a graph on small businesses that I will show you. Threats. Data and information management, protection of IP. We see in industry that there's a lot of innovation, but people are so scared because the system don't protect them, and they struggle to access financing for inventions and new innovations. Cybersecurity is also internet or a global threat. Everybody is focusing on security of data. We see that with discussions at the World Trade Organization as well. Our economy is very open, so we are vulnerable in terms of what happens globally. In terms, for example, of the trade wars between China and the US, we are affected because of our open economy. We've got a large youth population, and with that, I also have to qualify that it's a threat because we need to make sure that we can employ people in the future, but it's also actually an opportunity to invest in the youth. High unemployment and the skills gap that's increasing. Some confirmation of 4IR threats. PwC did a study of continents, and they looked at Africa, and I highlighted the top 3 threats that were identified for Africa. It was social instability, and we all know, we can see the signs of that. Increasing tax burden, so we see that for South Africa there's a national health insurance system that's coming, and we have to be very careful in terms of our policy on that, and over-regulation. As government, we want to regulate everything, and I'm sure that business will agree that we have to simplify our regulations if we want it to be easier to do business. Also opportunities. The World Economic Forum identified digital transformation opportunities, and I've included 2 areas. The one is on government services, and I've listed the top 5. So you will see the red part is the value to industry, and the orange part is value to society. And the top areas in government services is public infrastructure and public administration. In terms of industry sectors, the financial services were at the top, and people will ask, but how can financial services be at the top if we see that banks are closing all their branches? But that's exactly the reason, is that financial services is moving into the digital space, and that's why they are closing their branches, and there's many opportunities in financial services in the digital economy. We see agriculture and manufacturing as then third. Small business, I asked myself the question on how many small businesses are there, and I found a graph actually on the TIPS website, but it's data from Stats SA, which measured the number of formal and informal small businesses between 2010 and 2017, and the small businesses are actually defined as a business with less than 50 employees. And we see that in 2017 there were more or less 640,000 formal businesses registered, compared to the informal businesses. And that was actually an interesting figure to me, is that the informal businesses are growing much faster. And what Stats SA could pick up was 1.5 million informal small businesses. And I think there might be more, that maybe not all of them are registered, especially those in township areas and rural areas that are actually not included in the formal surveys. And I ask myself, the question is that if we as people that are formulating policy, we can't actually ignore small business if we look at these figures. And if we look at where we can find solutions for employment, we have to consider the small businesses. Deindustrialization that's happening. We see that manufacturing, the bottom line is the manufacturing in South Africa versus emerging markets and their industrial production. And we see the widening gap between our country's manufacturing and the emerging markets. It's confirmed by 300,000 fewer jobs in manufacturing since 2008. But also, for every manufacturing job, there's an estimated 3 to 4 indirect jobs that's affected. And we see then the high unemployment figure. And we believe as a department that it's possible that if we support the manufacturing sector, that we can change this graph and grow our manufacturing sector. And because of the indirect jobs, we can also see that as an opportunity to create jobs in manufacturing. This is trends in the US, future of manufacturing work. The question was asked in the Deloitte report to say the jobs are here, but where are the people? And I think that confirms the skills needs that is actually needed globally, and it will also be relevant in South Africa, where we see that there's about 2.2 million jobs that will be filled. But at least 2.4 million jobs that will be vacant in the US manufacturing industry in the next 10 years. Just a graph on gender in South Africa. So the red line is female employment in manufacturing versus the male employment in manufacturing. And I think going forward, this is an opportunity for us to introduce more females into the manufacturing sector. Future manufacturing is not about getting your hands dirty, but to work with a screen and work in the digital space. That's the future of manufacturing, and I believe that creates an opportunity for more females to be introduced into manufacturing. The National Integrated Human Resource Development Plan, that's a plan of the Department of Higher Education that was developed between 2014 and 2018. Currently, our department is working with the Department of Higher Education to revise the strategy. But they have identified 5 strategic outcome goals that I've listed here. And we've reviewed the goals, and we saw that most of these goals are still relevant. And we are going to stay with the 5 goals and bring 4IR, a 4IR perspective into the future planning for higher education. This is just to confirm that there's a big gap between demand and supply of skills, and it's increasing. And I've put some numbers of the current students in the system. I see that a lot of people want to focus on basic education, and I'm saying don't underestimate the youth. They actually know more than what we think they know. Our problem from a government perspective, which I think is a more immediate problem, is actually the students in the system. There's about 730,000 students in the TVET system, and at universities, and that's public universities, more than a million registered students. So it's almost 2 million students that needs actually to get work in the next 2 to 3 years. And where are the jobs going to come from? Digital skills. So what I believe that we also have to do, what is important, is to look at our current workforce and look at upskilling and reskilling. Upskilling with new competencies that we can learn for existing employees, and then perhaps I think younger people reskilling where they can actually move to a completely new role and learn new competencies. I've also listed out of it actually came from a World Economic Forum report. It was interesting to me to look at the top 10 global work preferences of job seekers, and it was interesting to see that what they've listed there, and it's actually more about the human interaction, is good relations with colleagues, good work-life balance, good relation with supervisor, learning and training opportunities. So that confirms also the new trend, the global trend, that the fourth industrial revolution is actually about human development. This is an index from the World Bank. It's quite outdated, but it's a debate that myself have with some of the science councils. I can declare that. They are arguing that it's outdated, and I'm saying is come with a different argument if there's different pillars that we have to put in to build our knowledge economy, because what they've listed here I think is still relevant in our current situation in the country, which is that we have to look at economic and institutional arrangements that we have, and how do we support then businesses. We have to look at education and skills, that's still relevant. Information and communication infrastructure, all of us know that ICT, the data, broadband, all of that is still relevant and is important in terms of the digital economy. And then lastly, the innovation system. I think that's what we are here, is because of the innovation system. And we have to look at how do we support the national system of innovation. This is a graph that were listed from investor surveys that also indicated the challenges of what the labour market is about in South Africa. And I'm asking the question is, do these constraints increase inequality? Because we've got restrictive labour regulations, we've got inadequately educated workforce, and there's poor work ethics that we actually can improve on. And that's some of the items that we have to consider in our policy development. Also structural reforms from the same IMF country report. I looked at skills and education quality, and you can see where South Africa is. And there's actually a lot of room for improvement. And like I said previously, they also identified, the IMF identified in their report, that we actually have potential of developing our young population, which is a big opportunity, not only for South Africa but for the continent. And you can read the report, the references there at the bottom. Human Development Report, that's digital skills required for the 21st century. They've listed ways of thinking, creativity. I've recently prepared a write-up on creativity, and I think it's becoming a big topic globally. There's a global creativity conference now every year in Indonesia. And it's growing. There's 30 countries, last year 30 countries participated, and 1,400 participants. And I believe that this year it was even bigger. We have to look also at tools for working. There's new tools that we can use. We need to change our ways of working and the skills that we need for the new world. So talent drives manufacturing competitiveness, and we see year on year that talent is the top driver of competitiveness identified by Deloitte in their report. We as a department, I think we had some foresight when we started developing a skills program for the manufacturing sector. And it's a talent-based recruitment program, and I will just say there's a slide on the program later. Also to confirm that talent and retaining of talent is important. In the Africa Competitiveness Report, the World Economic Forum indicated that one of our weaknesses is to retain talent in our businesses and government. This is our program, so we call that talent-driven innovation model. It was a pilot program for 10 years that we've developed with industry. It's an industry-driven program, but a partnership between industry and government. And it's based on skills and competencies. It's part qualifications, modular, and we've got a success rate of more than 80% of employment of our students. Currently, the figures that I have, that I've heard actually from the universities, that the people that find employment and that finish in time in terms of their graduation is around about 4 to 5%. And most graduates actually struggle to find employment. So we believe that this model will be one of the solutions for skills and creating jobs in manufacturing. We've put about 2,000 students through the system, and most of them are in employment. They are internationally certified. in new technologies, in advanced manufacturing. And we are going to work now with higher education to see how we can have spillovers and the benefits from this program into the higher education system. Just quickly, our digital industrial policy framework. There's 4 areas, and this is just a preview. The detail of the digital industrial policy will later be presented. We have a new minister, so we will first have to present to our new minister, but I thought of just giving a quick overview. So we created an ecosystem for the digital industrial policy. And the main areas are smart factories, legislation. I see there's a spelling mistake, but we will fix that. Digital transformation, and then policy coherence and partnerships. And those are the 4 areas that we are going to focus on. But it's not only the DTI that's going to work on those elements. We believe in partnerships with our social partners, partnership with labor and with industry, government-to-government partnerships, partnership with our civil society. We see that with the president bringing in people into the presidential 4IR commission. It's people, small businesses and people from communities and so on that can actually make an input into policy that we are developing on 4IR. And then we work with Africa and our international community. And thank you, that's it.